we're going to get a lot done today. And push to start.
Timber retaining walls have a danger that maybe not everybody's aware of, but those long timbers will oftentimes have spikes sticking out of one end or both ends. And a lot of times when you go to throw the timber, when one end hits, the other end bounces up and can hit somebody that's not aware. Just be careful about them flying timbers. When we're building a new retaining wall, we never leave anything buried below the base. We don't want to put the base over old timbers. We don't want to put it over old piping. We don't want to put it over tree roots. We don't want to put the base material over anything but pure, virgin, or solid compacted soil. It doesn't matter. And when I say pure virgin or solid compacted, those aren't the same things. We've got to be careful that if we're excavating, we're going down to virgin soil or unexcavated material and then compacting it. But if we've gone too deep in this case and we've got to bring the base back up, you'll see us right there compacting that base material. And a lot of times we'll just use rock, but we can also use class 5 to bring that base up. Now in this case, the customer did happen to have some class 5 that they were hoping to eliminate from their site, and it was a perfect material to use as base material to bridge that area back up. But you can see we also compacted the heck out of it before we went any further. Now this is an extra deep and wide base, and there's nothing wrong with going deeper and wider on your base as long as you're properly compacting it and bringing it back the right way. In fact, the more base material you have, probably the better your wall will perform, but that doesn't mean your wall will perform better just by having it. You've got to do the right things with it. Now in this case, if we happen to have really bad soils below this retaining wall and we could not perform a soil correction, there's a neat trick we could do, and that's to deepen the base, to create a pyramid, and to layer geogrid into the base materials. And that is a topic for, I think, another video entirely altogether. It's an extremely advanced topic, and it's not something that can be applied to every site. But once you know how to use it, you can start to spot areas and indicators where it's a perfect way to fix a problem area. Now in this case, we just had extra timbers buried and we needed to bring it up, so no geogrid was needed to layer into that base material. Now one thing we're doing on this job site is building the wall in sections, and in this case it's simply because the job site is just too tight to allow us to be able to build the entire wall from the bottom all the way up as one unit. So what we're doing is building one section from the bottom up at a time, and then we're combining the sections together. Now you've got to be careful. One of the things that can happen if you're not used to working this way is your wall can look like it was built in sections. Instead of looking like it's all one fluid unit, if you spot and look closely, you may see a retaining wall that was built in one section, then another section, then another section, and another section. And that's exactly what you don't want to see. But if you're aware that that can happen as you're combining the sections together, you just visually make sure that those different areas marry completely together and disappear and become one unit. So right here, Zach and Blaine are towing the wall in. Blaine carefully throws down a little bit of soil, and then Zach uses his feet and places that soil with a shovel and a rake and walks behind and in front of the block, compacting it. It doesn't take a whole lot of compaction, but this is part of the process to lock that base course in. And once we have the second course in place, then we can start to actually step and walk on the wall. But right now, we got to be careful not to touch it. The next section I want to cover is basing the retaining wall, and I think this is probably one of the most critical elements of building the retaining wall. Now, you've got to get all of the right materials, you've got to use those materials the right way, but if you don't have someone that knows how to base, it doesn't matter how good your materials are, your retaining wall is still not going to look good. Inside of our company, we always have what we call a master baser. I said master baser. And that's Blaine. Blaine is the master baser. Tim and I are also the other two master basers. And what we do is we go in and we oversee and we train the other guys on how to base. We've just trained in Alex on how to base and supervised him on a few of his projects until we're comfortable knowing that he can take over this critical step. And Sam is coming up very quickly being able to base. Now, as Sam is basing, he's got to make sure that each block is level front to back, side to side, and then he's got to also marry that to the block in front of it, and then that has to get married to the block behind it. So all of the blocks have to sync up. They can't be unlevel in any way, shape, or form, not individually and not together as a team. That's how you really get a wall that looks good. So not everybody's going to have these Versalock standard units available, and that's okay if you understand how to pick the right block. What you may have available in your area may be a hollow block, and it's not the end of the world if this is what you're going to be working with, but one of the things to be aware of is these hollow blocks require you to core fill them all the way up. So as you lay these side by each, now these aren't retaining wall blocks, but they're very similar in design to a retaining wall block. As you lay these blocks side by each, you're required to use 3/4 inch angular rock. Now this is less than 3/4 inch, and you're supposed to core fill them all the way up. And when you do that, what happens is it locks these blocks together. But a lot of times what installers will do is they'll build, then backfill. And they don't just build one layer, they'll build 2 or 3 layers. So if they take another block and they put it right over here, now when they go to core fill, they're depending on this angular rock trickling its way down and through the wall and 100% filling it up. And more times than not, I've seen that become a problem. But if you are gonna go with a more hollow block, I prefer having something that's hollow all the way through so that you can core fill.
All right, we got to get this downspout hooked back up here. So we're going to be getting some rain in about 30 minutes. And if you guys will remember, we put this drain box in and how he had it before. It's not sitting over there anymore. But it was running down into a chunk of PVC and running out that way. So we got to cut 3.5 inches off of here to get it to be setting right on top of the drain box there.
In the last video, we talked about running a downspout through the face of the retaining wall, but we made sure that we told you not to connect it into the drainage zone. But here's another element about downspouts. Whenever you hook them to an underground piping, you've got to have a break. You can't solid pipe a downspout into a pipe, because what will happen is it will freeze and it will back up and freeze all the way up the house, and it'll pull the downspout right off from the house. But by having just a little area of separation from the downspout to the underground drainage pipe, you can keep that from happening.
Not doing gutters.
As we get closer to the top, we do not continue to backfill all the way up to the back of the top block with drainage aggregate. In fact, we switch over to using native soils. That way the retaining wall flows more seamlessly into the rest of the landscaping. If they want to have grass all the way up to the top of the wall, they can, or whatever else they choose.
All right, guys, we are all done for the day. Getting off a little early because we used up all of the blocks. Getting some more delivered on Monday. We got a whole lot done though. So this is top of wall right here minus the cap, so it'll be up a little more. And this course is going to run pretty much to the corner, and we're going to step her down real fast over there. Oh, that rain's starting to pick up.
Now, when we leave a site for rain, we'll do a number of different things, but one of the most important things is you'll see that we have everything smooth graded as much as possible. I can't say everything, but we'll go through and our backfill piles will get smooth graded, our work zone will get smooth graded. We don't leave anything rough because that smooth grade really helps dry up the site faster. And of course, the critical areas that we can't smooth grade, like the trenches, well, we cover up.
Finish tarping her up right when the rain starts. Can't beat that time.